there are people who are actually liberals, right? Who present themselves as liberals, who actually have a not like a very big, not like a giant audience, definitely an audience that is diminishing, but like spend all of their time still looking at horrible things that are happening and then somehow finding a way to tie it back to their, to the person that they despise the most. That was, of course, is Destiny, also known as Sexpestiny, saw the American Gestapo laying siege on Minneapolis, Minnesota, and then turned around and was like, I'm actually really mad that, Hasan is out there protesting. I'm not going to go outside and protest myself. Of course, I would never do that because I'm a pussy. I'm a coward. But I will also, from my cowardly point of privilege in my own home, will demand that my cult-like audience go and disrupt what he's trying to do so that we can get a LSF clip off. Because if you noticed, there weren't any LSF clips off of the protest streams, even though, 70,000 people were watching, because they don't make it there. The only clips that make it there are ones that these guys try to manipulate in a certain way to try to make it seem as though it's like a super negative thing. And it's gone beyond. Now he's just like genuinely trying to get me killed using his cult to try to put a direct crosshair on me, like direct target on me. I don't know why he won't just like focus on being a normal human being. But this dork ass cult loser said, you have a moral obligation to bully the fuck out of this guy if you ever see him in one of your protests. Don't let the CCP paid agitators infiltrate liberal crowds of protesters. Make his presence as uncomfortable as possible until he's forced to pack up and off back to his WeHo mansion. First they say, all you do is sit in your WeHo mansion. And then when I'm not there, they go, oh, actually, we should bully you until you go back to your WeHo mansion. Now, of course, he's saying this kind of thing because he's a loser. Like, this is it. If you are a fan of Destiny, understand, please. I know there's a lot of haters that come in here to like look at all the clips and stuff to try to see if they can find something to disparage me or smear me or whatever. He has led you astray. This is all he cares about. Okay? This is all he cares about. This is all he cares about, nothing else. He just masquerades as a liberal, and maybe he has some liberal points of view. He really does hate Republicans for one reason or another. There's plenty of reasons to hate Republicans. I will say that. And he's a good debater. I will also admit that as well. But at the end of the day, his worldview is hollow. Okay? There's nothing there. It's just pure spite. This way, he can actually make it seem as though he's not just offended or envious or mad that there's someone else out there that liberals are paying attention to and not him, right? But instead, this is a serious, reasonable disagreement, an ideological disagreement that he has with me. If you genuinely were invested in liberalism, if you were genuinely invested in like combating Republicans, right? At this point, you probably would not align yourself historically with so many neo-Nazis and like that. But then also on top of that, you wouldn't be focusing on this, right? You wouldn't be focusing on this at all. This entire drama space on the internet where like all these other like drama farmers go to is led by individuals that have no investment in politics at all, that are totally sheltered from the impact of politics because they make like a decent amount of money and they can just stay at their homes. They only look at politics through the lens of drama, where personal grievances and envy is presented as significant political disagreements that must be addressed, where organized smear campaigns, clipping people out of context, making it seem like they said something that they didn't say, making it seem like they believe something that they don't believe, are treated like accountability initiatives, right? That's what they do. It's not actually about accountability. It's just one man's personal vendetta. And moments like this clearly show that reality. This is a person who has quite literally debated to the ends of time that I'm a more dangerous figure for America than Adolf Hitler. He has said that he would rather vote for Adolf Hitler than vote for someone like myself. That's not even a joke. And for a lot of people that are in the commentary sphere that think this guy is like, brilliant, even though his own personal audience is basically like a cult and doesn't have a lot of motion, they do end up swinging way above their weight class with regular frequency because they're very online. They brigade Reddit all the time. They've been using LSF as like a cum sleeve for the longest time. And that's it. They look to every single thing that I do here, not as like a point to organize around, even if they are supposed to be in agreement with it, but a point to like criticize. They're like, oh, well, he went out there, but also he actually was doing he went out there, but the wrong way. You know what I mean? I didn't go out there, of course, but if I did, I would go out there the right way. And basically it's just Gamergate. It's completely sociopathic. It's an ongoing, 7-year vendetta at this point, and he's just never going to let it go. Even though this kind of sentiment sentiment has no motion in the real world, as we see over and over again, it does have a tendency to make people think, make people online think twice, right? Every now and then. And before you say, why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about this? I'll get to it in a second. Because like he is quite literally saying, when you go out to protest, like you shouldn't care about the actual protest itself. You should go out to harass this person. I mean, look at the message that he's putting out there to his audience. His audience has already targeted me in public before. It was a very funny moment when at the DNC, one of them came and then we found out that he was a ginormous racist.
We allowed in here, y'all?
That same age.
Good?
Loser.
He was in his own Discord being like, oh, I'm seeing him here. I'm shaking. I'm shaking. You know, he's done that before. And he's also encouraged that before. But what happens when one of his fans actually has a knife or a gun? You know what I mean? I think he just hates people. He sees less than himself. You wouldn't do this if he showed up to support some pro-Palestine protests. What the hell? I saw Hasan saying it's a good thing that he changed his position on Israel, even if it's not out of principle. Yes, this is the whole point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is that this is utterly unproductive. That's the point. If he actually truly cared about combating ICE, he wouldn't be doing this. Why would you be doing this? We're supposed to be on the same side, right? But he doesn't care. All of this stuff is just another way to get an own. Ethan Klein does this all the time as well. He rarely ever talks about any of the ongoing incidents around the world unless he can like somehow tie it back to iDubbbz or tie it back to me. He's posted more about me on his Instagram stories, and every time I see it, it's like a jump scare. There'll be like 15 Instagram stories in a row of him like trying to yell at me. He cares more about that stuff. He cares more about like using any and everything that's going on in a way to dunk on me than to actually address the real atrocities that are taking place. These guys are psychotic. Now, many of you in this community don't even know this stuff because I rarely ever cover it because I feel like it's utterly unproductive and very stupid to cover it. I have a job to do. My job is to explain the news to people, right? My job is to try to get people out there, to organize, to try to stop the Trump administration. And it's crazy that these guys will just be like, well, you know, we'll just vote for Kamala Harris and then that's it. That's it. That's nothing else, okay? And then we'll also never go outside and we'll never do anything. And the only time we ever bring anything up, the only time we ever criticize anything that's going on is to somehow make it a dunk on, you know, people like myself, people like on the left. It's just crazy to me. In any case, obviously this is utterly motionless nonsense. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because he's straight up saying if Dan wants to do something useful and still be a Hasan hater, he should create a Track Hasan X account that posts his current location when he's out at protests. His location should be publicly available at all times while he's live streaming. This is him at his cult. This is this morning telling his co-host, his podcast co-host, Dan Stalkman, who has been trying to get me deplatformed and has worked alongside the ADL and things like that to actively get a bunch of pro-Palestinian people deplatformed on this platform for maintaining the now majority position, right? He's telling him like, don't just stalk him the way that you've been stalking him. Stalk him better. Stalk him directly. Yeah, this is the other thing that I was talking about. Look, I said the siege on Minneapolis, Minnesota is where you really see the West Bank occupation tactics on U.S. soil. Hasan's constant deflection to Israel is starting to amount to a defense of Donald Trump. He's shifting the blame off Trump every time he does this. This is the dumbest way to try to argue. And he, of course, clipped my perspective out of context once again. But that's what I mean. These guys cannot argue on the virtues. And remember, this person has literally openly stated that it would be totally justifiable to attack and kill me in real life. This person who has solicited nudes from a minor, as we now know in a civil court case that's ongoing, because he distributed revenge porn and his victims got together and sued him. And he's spent every waking moment presenting himself as like this woke guy on the one side, not even a woke guy. He's very edgy. He loves to say slurs and but like a liberal debate god, while simultaneously he's doing stuff that's like completely antithetical to being in any way, shape, or form protective of minority populations. He's even like fantasized about calling ICE on one of his victims, right? I feel like he does this clout farm off you. There's no way his community is as large as ours. There's just more vociferous and more prolific online. He lashes out. I know, but the reason why I'm showing this kind of stuff is so that people understand that this isn't like every now and then I got to check in and explain to you what I have to be dealing with, right? And then also on top of that, so that you're on the lookout for, you know, bad faith actors like this if I go outside. Do I think platforms should take action against people like this? Yes, I do. I think this goes far beyond just like having reasonable political disagreements. You know what I mean? You're like actively demanding to your cult-like fan base that they go out and find me in the wild and like harass me, or maybe do something else other than harass me, then it'll be fine. You know, it'll be good. It's fine. Oh yeah, Rage said, don't talk to him, Lost. You'll get cooked. If you do the same asthma method and stay in your circle jerk, you can be a bot and just think you're right 24/7. Exactly. I don't know if you heard what came out about Tectone, but you could have a case against them. They're threatening your life and defaming you. Both have had horrible things come out in the legal system, let alone, I know. Tectone stuff we'll get to in a little bit, but like, I mean, that's another one of those losers. Again, judge me by my enemies moment, of course. Tone was in court and hasn't been tweeting as much, or hasn't been like posting or live streaming as much. I mean, you probably don't pay attention to that sort of thing. I certainly don't, but that's what people say. He has not been doing enough posting, partially because he had an ongoing court case, an active court case, which, by the way, finalized recently, and it caused his talent agency, run by his best friend and #1 defender, Asmondgold, to drop him. We have terminated our relationship with Tectone. Several months ago, we initiated our separation process and recently have finalized his departure. Now, the reason why this happened is because after a long and contentious court battle with his ex-partner, who accused him of sexually assaulting. From what I understand, the court case has been finalized. I don't know the exact details. I haven't been following it closely. From what I understand, the civil proceedings came to a close, and the victim was able to successfully sue. Now, one of the things that's interesting, apparently Miskiff sent like a court reporter to the court notes in this process. I didn't get to see all of this stuff because I was out in the streets of Minneapolis. Yeah, and she also posted this after, of course. She said, happy day. Much love to this queen. I mean, seriously, I'm sorry that you had to go through all of that and then probably get traumatized altogether one more time in the court process, but at least now you have a moment of respite. But yeah, I saw this. Tectone admits in court he pivoted to on Hasan and shilling right-wing content because he was accused of sexual assault. Lawyer replied, we've been in deposition for over 7-9 months, I think, and you've only spent 15 minutes searching for tweets. Tectone responded, and I quote, yes. He defended his rants by saying, when a content creator in our space gets these accusations, they have to pivot content to stay relevant. Then he brought HasanAbi saying, like how when he shocked his dog. So apparently he did a right-wing pivot and he thought that, but HasanAbi bad would work in a court of law. The reason why I laugh about this stuff is because like you cannot be that online, man. This is the equivalent of something I joke about all the time. Like, imagine someone does a murder and then they're being prosecuted and they turn to the judge and they go, well, HasanAbi shocked his dog. Why aren't you prosecuting him? It's like, bro, are you stupid? Like, you're the one who's in trouble, not some fantasy that you concocted in your mind. Are you that dumb? Now, of course, for him, he is that dumb. Yes. But if you look at this profile, you see it. You see that pivot very clearly. Okay. Somewhere along the line, he decides he's a right winger. And when he becomes a right winger, eating off of Asmondgold's dick to the best of his ability, because he sees Asmondgold really popping off with this kind of stuff, it's all clips out of context, consistently talking about me. Same exact thing that Asmondgold does with like AI boosted thumbnails. Content cop Hasan and Ludwig, Ethan Klein lawsuit dropped and it's bad. Hasan lost his mind. I mean, he was eating good. Look, 359,000 views 6 months ago, right? This ties back to what I was talking about. The whole notion that like a lot of people are forced into submission, forced into silence on the internet because they only see this. And when a lot of my supposedly woke progressive friends did not want to turn around and say this kind of stuff is so stupid. Hasan's reputation is now 400,000 views. R-word TikToker tried to ruin a viewer's life on stream. Hasan thinks he's a victim. Ian and Anissa. Hasan is delusional, right? Hasan crashed out on lawyer over the truth. Asmongold versus Hasan. Lawyer lays down the law on Hasan. And then when he does like anime related nobody cares. But that's how easy it is to be a right-wing moron on the internet. This is why I always say nobody grifts to the left. Grifting to the right is so easy. You don't have to know anything. You just have to look at like whatever large left content creator exists, or even someone that's like maybe somewhat quiet but still has like a good conscience and will every now and then speak out on, you know, issues, and just yell at them and say that they're woke, say that they're a woke terrorist that must be punished, and then have your newfound audience go and harass them endlessly, harass them into submission. Now, part of the reason why he was doing this, and I didn't really know about him at all, was because he came after me in one of these incidents, right? In any case, he was a massive gooner. He was into lolly. He was a weirdo to begin with. And he was also an abuser. That's why we were calling him Tone, right? Apparently, the reason why he did this, the reason why he pivoted was because he wanted to maintain relevance. And he openly admitted that in court. Isn't that crazy? Just saying the quiet part out loud. I don't think I have brought up Dictone, Tectone more than maybe twice. Look at the amount of videos he's made. Last time I brought him up was when we found out that he's a generational racist, that his dad was such a prolific in the military that they wrote a bill around it. They wrote a goddamn bill around his father's in the military. Do you know how hard it is? Do you know how hard it is to get prosecuted for rape in the military? Do you know how big of a problem sexual assault among the ranks is? And I would have never found that out if he hadn't just yelled at me for no reason. Yeah, and then he blamed me. He cried and blamed me for it too. Hasan is zeroing in on Tectone right now. This is the last time I talked about him. Specifically, Tectone's dad for alleged previous sexual harassment in the army. Bald himself, it's a familial obligation over here. Bro's going after my 75-year-old cancer-ridden dad because of an alleged sexual harassment claim from 17 years ago when I was 15 years old to try to paint me as a rapist. This guy's psychotic. He must be upset because his best friend's on trial right now. I don't know who he means when I said best friend. To which I responded with, they got your dad's sex crimes in the congressional record, man. Why are you still chirping? You know what? That deserves another retweet, for today.
Story of Colonel Michael Robertson, who commanded Fort Bliss's 31st Combat Support Hospital at Camp Dwyer, a military base and airfield in the Helmand River Valley in Afghanistan. Last week, Colonel Robertson was convicted by a military judge of 14 charges, including having pornography on his government computer, sexually harassing 3 women, and assaulting 5 women. 8 women that served under his command testified at great cost to their careers and their privacy. Colonel Robertson routinely touched them without permission on their breasts, thighs, and buttocks, and encouraged them to look at pornography computer. Some testified the harassment occurred daily. Sadly, the military careers of these 8 women who bravely did the right thing are almost assuredly destroyed. A major who filed a claim against Robertson said, quote, I don't know if my career was in jeopardy for doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's his dad. That's your man's. That's your dads you be hanging with. They got your pops on sex assault charges. I guess they were like, no, this is what was passed down, generationally to me, Tone. Now, why am I talking about this? Because all of these guys are some of the worst monstrous pieces of shit on the internet. And once they do that right-wing pivot, it's over. I don't think that he will. I mean, he'll never have a moment of respite. Like, everyone will constantly, just like they do with Destiny, they will constantly bring up that he's a pedophile, right? And with Tone, they will constantly bring up that he's a rapist. But it doesn't really matter because he has already created a community for himself, right? He's already created a right-wing community for himself. And right-wingers, unfortunately, I wish they were smarter, but they're not so smart. And also, for the most part, they just kind of organize around the anger that they feel towards what they think is like, liberal woke mindset. But the other reason why I'm talking about this is because this is a bad week for Asmondgold. Because this is another one of his close and personal best friends that has been outed for weird sexual misconduct and sexual abuse in this circumstance, right? So let's see what he had to say about this.
And what is this here? After your stream, shit went crazy. I have no idea what happened yesterday. I really don't. I saw like a bunch of stuff got leaked and like people were like making up rumors. I'm not going to comment on any of that stuff. I think that anybody knows why. I'm just not even going to get into it. So,
that's so strange that so many of his friends are sexual deviants and consistently finding themselves in these sorts of issues, and all of a sudden you got nothing to say. I'm just oblivious. Yeah, I don't know.
Any drama farmers, people that are looking to kind of get have like some kind of little bits of information or my take on it, it's just not going to happen.
Mr. I don't do research. Mr. I probably should do more research on this stuff. So I showed you a couple of these guys, and now you might understand why Los Pollos is a angel in comparison to these dipshits, right? That's it. There's levels to it. I think Los Pollos is savable. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he's more so a vibes guy. He's more so a vibes guy, okay? That's what I think. Maybe I'm being too charitable. But yeah, one by one, these motherfuckers are dropping like flies left and right. But just understand that when you see someone constantly pumping this, when you see someone constantly pivoting to the right, constantly pumping, doing this. Hasan obliterated by Asmondgold and Tectone again. Yeah, just like between Albania and China, they got 1.4 billion communists in the world, you know? Asmondgold and Tectone, double team Hasan. Does a Goodbye Charlie video, all this stuff. And speaking of Asmondgold, the reason why I'm pivoting here, the reason why I'm talking about Asmondgold from Tectone from Tone to Asmondgold is because Asmondgold owns Mythic Talent. This is one of the many businesses that he owns. He's one of the co-founders of Mythic Talent. It's a talent agency. Do you understand how these motherfuckers work? Like the reason why I'm telling you is because like if you see a bunch of slop tubers, a bunch of people that are like, I'm just apolitical, I'm just common sense, I really hate this one guy who's a socialist, oh he's the real enemy, you should know how evil he is. Just know what they're doing. They're doing this for a reason. And some of them will even be liberals like Sex Pestany, also involved in his own personal court case where it came out that he was actually procuring child sexual abuse material from a minor that he kept in his hard drives. Like, it's not my fault that almost all of my most vociferous and most ferocious haters happen to all have these sorts of charges, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know why that like all these people gravitate towards hating on me and they don't stop either. It's not like normal. Like at least with XQC, it's usually like he farms me, whatever, but you know, it's irrelevant ultimately. It doesn't hit the same level of ferociousness as like a Tectone who's just only doing, at least he farms everything, you know what I mean? But people like Asmondgold, people like Tectone, they're just almost entirely, their political commentary, it revolves around Trump good and you know, Hasan bad. Because for these guys, they don't have a real political worldview, okay? They don't have a real political vision, whether good or bad. They just don't have anything, right? Like there are certain things that they believe, like, you know, maybe some socially learned opinions about like trans people or gay people or I don't know, like black people. Like they have some points of view, but they don't have a coherent political ideology. They don't have real political conviction. They don't have a vision for a better future. So all of this is basically a game to try to boost their algorithmic status to the best of their ability. And they realize that the best possible way to do that is by doing drama, covering politics from the perspective of drama. So instead of being like, here's why Hasan is wrong because, you know, I don't agree with what he's saying about Israel. Israel is great or whatever. Instead of that, they just go, Hasan is a terrorist, right? Hasan is getting deplatformed again. And a lot of people respond positively to that, unfortunately, because a lot of people also don't have that political education. They don't have that political education either. They don't have time to do the reading. They don't have time to do the understanding. So they just go, give me some easy to understand quick hits as to why I should not listen to this person at all. And when it actually doesn't happen, when they go, Hasan is done this time, Hasan is done this time. In sloptuber circles, you are now known to have anti-pedophilia AOE aura because all your ops are pedos. Yeah, I don't know what the it is. I mean, even Dr. Disrespect, even Dr. Disrespect, every single time, brother. How is that possible? That's why it hits every time I say, judge me by my enemies. In any case, they'll be like, Hasan is finished. Hasan is finished over and over again to like a smaller and smaller and smaller audience. And then inevitably they get to, why is he not finished? Well, that's because he owns Twitch. Why is he not finished? Because he actually blackmails all of his friends. He must have blackmail on all of his friends. Also, we should make it harder for his friends to come out and defend him, or defend the truth rather. We should also harass them too. We should go after them too, so that like he doesn't even have any support system whatsoever, so that it's easier to just like bully and punish people for having any progressive opinions whatsoever. And then people sit around and go, how did we get here? How did everyone get so right wing? Well, this is part of the reason why, because no one wants to stand up. And they have been very effective for like the last 3 to 4 years. They've been very, very effective in the last 3 to 4 years, but their impact is softening now because people are so frustrated because reality is hitting them in the face. And when you have ICE agents sieging, laying siege on American cities, killing Americans, and you're going to a guy that you are supposed to get political opinions from, and the guy that you're supposed to get political opinions from is like, well, you know who's actually really the villain here? Hasan. There, eventually people are gonna be like, actually, he's out there. You're just on him from your house, and I don't agree with you. And that change is coming. That's why I said woke is back. That's why I'm saying woke is eventually going to be back. They can't comprehend why adults that are invested in the political process will turn around and, you know, court me for my opinion, whether they be actual politicians, whether they be politicians that actually worked in the previous administration, politicians with ambitions for higher office, or all of these media outlets that come to me to hear what my perspective is. They're like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why are the adults that I respect not seeing what I see? Maybe it's because your brain is infested with worms. Okay, that's it.